Hello everyone, and welcome to my panel, Designing Spaces to Prevent Visual Burnout. My name is Brianna Williams, and I am the Senior Designer at 5-Star Office Furniture. You may remember me as Brianna Boyd from last year, so I wanted to be sure to reintroduce myself and also say I'm excited to be back. We have a lot of content to cover today, so let's go ahead and start reviewing the best practices on creating indoor wellness spaces and outdoor havens. Our topics will include the following: the well building standards, working well, resting well, and outdoor spaces. I've also included a slide towards the end with a lot of helpful resources, so be sure to check it out. Here we have our first topic, the well building standards. In 2014, the International Well Building Institute, or IWBI, launched the well building standard after a 6-year expert peer review process that spanned 3 feedback phases featuring scientists, practitioners, and medical professionals from around the world. It covers air, water, nourishment, light, movement, thermal comfort, sound, materials, mind, and community. All of these are important, of course, but our main focus will be on the mind and community concepts. I'm going to hop into a bit more detail on those, but I would like to encourage you to come back and read over this slide once this panel is over. So here are all of the topics under the mind element. We will be focusing on the bolded ones: nature and place, restorative spaces, and enhanced access to nature. The resources slide at the end has a ton of additional info on these bolded items, and I would like to highly encourage you to check those out to get a better idea of everything. But basically, nature and place is about providing people with access to natural light, nature views, and other natural elements while indoors. Restorative spaces would be like access to wellness rooms, and enhanced access to nature would be including those beautiful green spaces and blue spaces. Our other section is community, and again, we will be focusing on the bolded topics: new mother support, so of course our mother's rooms, and then accessibility and universal design, which is basically how do we go above and beyond code and ADA compliance? How can we help those with invisible disabilities or mental health issues like anxiety and create a space that is truly inclusive? I don't really have one dedicated example for this, but you will hopefully see how thoughtful and how well thought out the designs are and think that is what she meant, mainly with clear spaces and how people will be interacting with the spaces and how it was designed for an array of people to use. Now that we got through the technical stuff, let's dive into workstations. I noticed that the WELL standards seem to be more centered around open offices, but please keep in mind that everything we go over can also be applied to private offices. It's also possible that I'm just being biased because I really love a good workstation. So, as you all know, we do not always have the perfect project from start to finish. There will be times where we'll be brought in later, and we will not always be able to provide our input into what makes a whole building successful. Sometimes we are truly just doing the workstations or private offices, and they can be tricky to design while still being mindful. Thankfully, by providing the proper furniture and accessories, we can create an open office or a private office that can still help a person to focus and reduce visual burnout. This is important, and if anyone has ever worked in an open office before, then you understand that sometimes it can be difficult to be efficient and get work done. So for your focus-oriented workstations, I highly recommend something similar to the examples shown here and include some of the features listed on this slide. My personal favorites being a good monitor arm, good chair, wire management, and especially clamp-on power or above surface power in general. Not everyone has an easy time of reaching under their desks, and it's nice to have power easily accessible. We've covered best practices on how to design a workstation for focus, and now I would like to go over how to design one that will help you to relax. The items to include are the exact same as items for focus, but now we have added low storage with a cushion and planters. The low storage is of course perfect for coworkers to sit and help or discuss quick items, but it's also perfect for putting your feet on. My workstation is the one shown here on the bottom, and I love it. I love the low storage, and I love that it is U-shape, because when I get one email too many, I can turn 180 degrees and kick my feet up and just go ahead and take my 15-minute break without feeling guilty or having my work staring me in the face. If you must do benching, then please at least include a foot rocker. Everyone will appreciate having a place to rest their feet, especially people as short as me. For your planters, I recommend them at the end of your runs, but there are a lot of creative solutions for them, so check out what your vendors have for ideas. I've seen storage along the spines, mounted to gallery panels, and encasing lateral files or cabinetry. If you have any workstations by the windows, then pull them off the wall some and place lounge seating at the end so people can enjoy the window view. Working well when workstations no longer work. I know how that sounds, but I've got your attention, right? When I say they no longer work, I mean they no longer work for the employees. What do you do when the exhaustion starts to kick in? What do you do when you just have to walk away and get a change in pace? This is what these spaces are. When the workstations work, but the end users just can't work well there anymore. When they feel unfocused and restless because the visual burnout or general burnout just gets to them. As an example, my company 5-Star has a beautiful office. We have skylights, plants, lounge seating, outdoor seating, and background music. My workstation is optimized for what I do, and most of the time I love it, but there are times when I realize I'm no longer being productive, and that is when I go to sit at our collaborative storage space, shown here at the bottom left. These are the spaces you go to when you want to work or momentarily retreat, but your workstation just isn't doing it for you anymore. These are also perfect for the half days or lighter work days and give the perfect reset. Other areas you could design include collaborative tables, lounge seating with privacy screens and tablet arms, phone booths, and wellness rooms for when you truly just need to get away from your work. Wellness rooms. I'm really excited to talk about restorative spaces. Over 20% of the workforce experiences prolonged fatigue and stress, and everyone deserves a proper guilt-free break. These rooms are critical to ensuring long-term good mental health. They can also lead to keeping people motivated and focused and can help relieve stress, fatigue, and especially visual burnout. I've listed the WELL building standards requirements here, and literally it says, it is not to be used for work, so leave your... Here we have our overall with comfortable lounge seating inside and outside, as well as a water feature. I spent a little too much time making that little water feature, and I didn't even show it in any of my renderings, so I wanted to be sure I pointed it out here. Sound intervention is one of the requirements, so I thought that a sound masking system would be good for inside, and running water would be good for outside. This rendering is probably my favorite out of all the ones done for the wellness room. It shows all of the good things. It has the neutral colors, though I did tie in the blue pillows to the paintings. It has natural lighting, mood lighting, plants, and artwork. As a by the way, all of the art shown here was done by a local artist. His name is Robert, and you can see him over on the bookshelf. He does like to go by Bob Ross though, and all jokes aside, if you ever need a lot of nature art, use Bob Ross. It will all be cohesive, and it will brighten your mood while looking at his art too. I've included lots of lounge seating, a rocking chair, privacy panel, and small table for anyone that wants to escape with a fresh cup of coffee or tea. In this view, you can tell how heavy we leaned in on the visual privacy with the alcoves, as well as additional mood lighting for them. They all have small acoustical tile in them, along with plants and art on the opposite wall. A 2-seat or 3-seat sofa has also been included with an ottoman and height-adjustable laptop table. I designed mine to be large enough to accommodate a wheelchair as well. I did that by making an 8-foot thick wall and then adding arches. I did add a custom shape behind it to fully enclose the space. Windows are along the back wall to allow natural lighting to be let further into the building as well. I have one more view for you of this wellness room so you can see out the windows and catch a glimpse of an outdoor space. Low seating has been provided along the walls along with ottomans that are the same height as the seat. They should be easy enough to move to prop your feet up on, but honestly, I would just leave it there and lay down. Next up is the mother's rooms. Please advocate for the new moms. I have a friend expecting in March, and she is literally expected to pump in a storage closet, and I am really fiery about it. So again, please advocate for the new moms and parents. Under the Fair Labor Standards Act, most nursing employees have the right to reasonable break time and place that is not a bathroom. The WELL Building Standards takes it even further, and I have included the requirements here. Please read through this, especially the part about the sink. I have included the first and only mother's room I have ever worked on in the nearly 6 years I have been doing this. It has the microwave for sterilization, a refrigerator, clamp-on power, lots of surface space, and a comfortable chair. It is off of the break room, so there's a sink available as well. And here it is installed. It's gorgeous, and I'm glad we went with the vinyl. It's much easier to clean. Please also specify sealed seams if you can, just in case of any spills or accidents, and just ease of cleanability. Here is my example of what I hope would be a near perfect mother's room. I am not a mother, but I did my best to ask the mom friends I had for their input. I have a shared space for the fridge, microwave, and storage. I have one fully enclosed room and one partially enclosed. My coworker was a fan of that one, so she could have a friend come in and keep her company. Another person I asked told me I better have a system in place so that supervisors aren't following the moms into these rooms. I recommend a key code or badge access if possible. I made sure to include a sink, paper towels, soap, mood lighting, easily accessible power, a comfortable chair, large surface, and for the super ambitious moms, I've included a 34-inch high surface for them to work at. I recommend art and a mirror as well. Here's an extra view showing one of the rooms and the shared storage space. I really wanted to design a room that could meet all the needs of the moms. I wanted it to be a calm place for the moms to retreat and take care of themselves and by extension their family. I wanted it to be a place where they can relax, but if they have to work, they can do that too in a comfortable space dedicated to their wellness. I have one more close-up rendering of the shared space. We have lockers for the pumps, again, a microwave for sterilization, and a fridge dedicated to storing milk. I spoke with my sister, who had just gone back to work after maternity leave, and she told me to change two things. One, add a brag board, so that the moms can share pictures of their little ones and build up a community, and two, add a bowl for healthy and quick snacks. Please, if you have any further suggestions, let me know. I'm here to teach, but I would also love to learn more. Moving right along to our break rooms. Our break rooms are totally different from your wellness room and certainly different from your mother's room, but it's still important to the overall mental health of the end users. I love designing break rooms, and this one was so much fun to design since I got to choose all of the fun colors. I was lucky to find a mural that so perfectly matched my fabric, and I think it ties everything together nicely. While I was designing it, I wanted to show that a break room can be more than just the usual table and chairs. Break rooms are a great way for occupants to relax, have fun, and of course enjoy their lunch. My goal with any break room is to create a space where people can come together and socialize, and as always, take a needed break without feeling guilty. I know that not every job has a wellness room, mother's room, and break room under scope, so if need be, break rooms can become the perfect catch-all. Best practices include the usual table and chairs, lounge seating, a dedicated coffee bar to keep the prep area free of those coming in for coffee, a good phone booth for the moms, plants, mood lighting, and outdoor seating if possible. Here is the floor plan for the break room. One side is dedicated to coffee and lunch prep. We have a separate quiet lounge, a more general lounge seating, booth seating, and table and chairs. Outside has more table and chairs, a few bar height tables, and even more lounge seating. I love how much you can see in this rendering. I love the outdoor view and bar height tables off in the distance, and I love the lounge seating carrying the colors across the space and adding a pop against the blue. I wanted to point out right quick that the rectangular tables are on casters in case anyone ever wants to push them together for a large team lunch. I was adamant on including a table with casters, so I'm glad I was able to make it work. We've got a quick view of our quiet lounge. I included this room specifically because my husband told me he would only ever drink his coffee in the wellness room. So I created this to compete with that, just something a little more dedicated to coffee breaks. Y'all, I love coffee. You might have noticed. I talked about my love for it last year too. It is just so good, but back to the furniture. I included lounge chairs with pillows, coffee tables, and bar height tables and stools with a fun print on the back and vinyl on the seats. I found it fitting to place more lounge furniture outside in front of this area too. Here we can see how well the colors really come together. I'm really pleased with them, and I know I already talked about it, but I don't always get to work with such fun colors and patterns. I made sure to turn on natural light before rendering to get these fun shadows. All the way in the back you can see the modular caskets. I spent a bit of time, too much time, adding accessories to the inside of the cabinets because I was unwilling to compromise on the glass doors, so hopefully you can just make out a few of those little details. Last view of the break room. I know everyone knows how to design a good break room, but I do hope I was able to inspire you all and give you a few fresh ideas. Again, the break room is the catch-all space, so have fun with it, be mindful, and provide various types of seating and tables at various heights for the end users to fully enjoy and get the most out of this space. Just wanted to share a quick break room that we installed a few years ago for further inspiration. And one more view of it showing off the booth seating. Fun fact, the mother's room from earlier is down the hall and on the left. Working well best practices. Within the plants extension, group the predefined plants when something is just needed for show. Group plants by mix and match to customize real planters and add more than one kind of plant for depth. Rotate and scale plants as needed for realism. Create blocks for planters. The manufacturers will occasionally include an add plants feature. That is excellent for when you need to turn around a project quickly. You don't always have time to be going through and adding all these fun extra details and plants to enhance it. Sometimes you just need to get it backed out to the market. When creating exterior wall details, use 3D custom shapes. I once put a wall on top of a wall to get a detail, and I will never do that again. Preview renderings for real-time lights rather than re-rendering. Also learned that one the hard way. Be sure to increase your light brightness for taller ceilings. Utilize SketchUp models as needed. And privacy hedges are a great way to create a horizon line if you're struggling to blend a panoramic view into your floor. Add mood lighting with wall sconces and omni-lights. And as by the way, pillows can be adjusted down when units are changed to inches and fractions. Outdoor spaces getting started. The first outdoor space that started the need for this panel at all is right here. This rendering is the first rendering I had to do for an outdoor project. I did it back in March 2023, and while I technically did what was needed, it was missing everything but the furniture they ordered. So we will go through my process in re-rendering this project to make it better and how to enhance other outdoor spaces. This is the first attempt at re-rendering the image from the previous slide. I'm not gonna lie, after I did this, all I could think was, oh, that is really not a whole lot better. So let's go ahead and try something new. And here it is. I tried something new. I changed my render mode to natural light, which gave me these awesome shadows, and then I changed my background to realistic generated sky. If you forget to turn on realistic generated sky, it really will only be gray. I liked the last view, but I wanted more emphasis on the furniture, so I adjusted my angle again, and to make it a little more realistic, I added a fire lane. I created the material and then added a 3D text on top in the stencil font to achieve this look. I decided that I wanted to keep going on creating all of these angles, so I went ahead and I swapped my view. That way I could again get a little bit closer to the furniture. And I liked it despite the weird horizon line. And then I said, but wait a minute, I can just, make this even better. So I did. I added some cars. I went ahead and just imported these from SketchUp, and I'm really pleased with how much this project changed, and it gave me a good base in proceeding with the rest of my outdoor spaces. So I know that it doesn't look like much, but Trust the process, y'all. This is the first rendering that I did of my pond that I created, and I used the same settings that I did in the previous project, and somehow it ended up like this. So let's go ahead and get into how I ended up fixing these things up and keep learning. Much better. I don't know what told me to go from doing a parking lot to doing a pond, but here we go. I hope you're excited to learn on how to make your own pond if the situation ever arises. Just a quick close-up of the furniture. I turned on the Add Plants button for the planters, and then added in a few more filler plants to make it a bit more natural. As a by the way, this building is not a full building. It is only about 8 feet deep, and there is nothing behind those doors. It was truly just added to provide depth to the space. Here's a bonus view for you all, showing off these nice shadows on the ground and also along the walls. And here's a quick behind the scenes. The image shown here is image 21, and along the bottom you can see how I was keeping track of my progress. I wanted to share this as well so you can take a look at my settings. I have my sunlight on 100%, and I have cloudy overcast turned off so that the shadows shown in the preview will actually show up in the final rendering. Here's a quick side-by-side showing what it looks like with the cloudy overcast turned on the left and the cloudy overcast turned off on the right so we can get our shadows. And here's the full view for you with full sunlight. I love it, but again, the horizon just kind of drops off. So I decided to add a panoramic view. I am super thrilled with how this all turned out. I think it's so crazy to think that I really did go from creating some furniture in a outside of a storefront to creating this beautiful green space and blue space outside with full lighting, full shadows, and everything. Here's how I accomplished the panoramic view. It was very simple. I just selected the preloaded panoramic view in CET and just adjusted the scales and offsets as needed to get the ground to blend as well as I could. It did take a little time, but I'm very happy with the final product. Okay, let's make a pond. I had a lot of fun working through this. It was challenging and rewarding, and there were a lot of layers that went into it, a lot of time went into it, so I hope you like it as much as I do. Here are almost all of the layers that I used to make my pond. The only layer not shown is the base, and that's because it is huge. It is 24 inches thick and covered in grass, so I decided to leave that off and focus on everything else that is going to be used around it. So, steps to build a pond. You are going to start with a 24-inch thick rectangular 3D shape. From there, you are going to use the custom shape tool to get the outline of the pond cut out, and then use the switch straight/curved function to smooth harsh angles. You will then select the original 24-inch thick rectangular 3D shape, and within the Properties dialog box, you are going to select Create Hole. From there, you can create another custom shape around the pond that will act as the dirt. This shape only needs to be about half an inch thick, and you are again going to use the straight curved function to smooth the harsh angles, and then you can create another hole. From there, you need to set the bottom layer for dirt or stones at 0 inches. Then you need to set a center layer for the blue water at 6 inches. And then you will need to set a final top layer for the clear water at 21 inches. After that, you can start to add in your details. That includes items such as your rocks at different elevations within the pond, also around the edge. It also includes fish, as well as your plants that will be underwater, in the water, and around the water. You can of course use the plants extension and SketchUp to create those final details. As an extra little note, block your details as you go and lock the position of everything once you are done. I promise you do not want to accidentally delete or move anything once you are done with this. I tried to keep the steps as concise and clear as possible, but if any of you get around to making your pond and you get stuck, then please feel free to email me. Or please follow the link or scan the QR code towards the end of the presentation to access a ton of extra materials, including a CET file with this exact pond, fish and all, already made. You'll just have to stretch the size of the base to get it exactly how you need it. I did want to show just a quick little cross-section, I guess, of all those layers that I just discussed. So at the bottom you can see the rocks, and then you can see the blue water at 6 inches, and you can see the clear water at 21 inches. You can also see all of the rocks and plants and fish all in between. Moving on to outdoor spaces lighting. Just wanted to share a couple of fun views with you right quick before I go on and add all of my extra lights. But we will be discussing how to add lights to your windows, how to add fire, and then also how to add neon lights. Just an extra view for you guys to get an idea of what the full space looks like. And one more just showing off the railing. I did this by making a little wall and then adding a bunch of arches. I then also added a custom 3D shape under it and extruded it 6 inches so that the cutouts didn't run all the way to the ground. And here we have our last view before we turn on the lights. I really love the soft seating that's around, and I also absolutely love the planters. I definitely spent way too much time on those, but I had a lot of fun working on them, especially with adding the string of hearts along the edges of the planters to really make it feel organic. And here it is with the lights. We turned on our hallway lights, our fireplace, and our neon lights towards the top. I know it doesn't look like much in this 100% lighting, so let's also go ahead and talk about how to make it nighttime. Y'all, look at it. It is so cool, and I am so excited to show you guys how to do this. I love how the panoramic view turned out in the background. I love how the lighting in the fire pit actually looks like fire. I love the glow that it gives everything, and I also love how the shadows kind of are, or rather the light is kind of cut off at the planters, but you can still kind of see a little bit of a glow underneath them. Just right quick, I wanted to revert back to the daytime before lights so you can get an idea of the angle and view we will be editing. This is in 100% sunlight and with a realistic generated sky. And here we have it at night. This is before any post-processing was done, so it still looks a little light out, maybe around the blue hour. So let's go ahead and get into some post-processing to see if we can make it look just a little bit darker out. And here we go. I love this view. I know I already said this, but I really do love the glow of the fire on the furniture. I love how the fire that was in the fire pit of the SketchUp model actually looks like it's glowing. And I also really love how over to the left we're getting a little bit of glow from the indoor lighting that has been turned on. I think that this rendering is just perfect for a nighttime view. It still has enough light to actually gauge what is going on in this space. Like, it doesn't really sacrifice detail, but it still gets the point across that it is now nighttime. Here are the settings I used while getting ready to render and after. I have my sunlight turned down to 1, and I turned on cloudy overcast so that I do not get shadows from the sun that is supposed to be down. I did do a quick Google search as a by the way to find out how much of the sun the moon actually reflects, and it reflects between 3% and 12%. So you can try to gauge your lighting based on those numbers if you want to play around with these settings. I also went ahead and added the panoramic background. It's just the typical one that was already preloaded into CET. And then for post-processing, it was real easy. I set the brightness to -15, and then I set the contrast to 15. Everything else on here stayed the same. Okay, so it is time to talk about how I actually turned on the glow of the fire for the fire pit. It was a little difficult to figure out, but now that I know how to do it, it's very easy. So what you're going to do is you're going to get an Omnilight. I decided to use 3 in this case, just so that I can get a consistent golden glow throughout. After I got those 3 lights placed, I then went into my light settings. You're going to go ahead and group those. I just ended up naming it as fire pit lights. And then after you have grouped them, you can go ahead and adjust the brightness range to light bulb. Then you will adjust the brightness to 1000. And then you are going to adjust the color temperature to be as warm as it can get at 1500. From there, you can turn on real-time lights under the Lights tab to get an idea of how the glow of the fire will actually look, and then you are ready to render. Here we have our last view for this project in 100% sun. I am showing this one just kind of as our baseline before we switch back to our nighttime view. I also wanted to point out right quick that there are portraits on the interior wall. They might be a little difficult to see, so we're going to talk a little bit on how to turn on lights on the inside whenever we're working with outside spaces. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some neon lights. And here it is at night. We did get those hallway lights turned on, and I didn't want to add any colors just yet to the neon lights, so for now we'll go ahead and call them accent lights. But I hope you're excited to learn the last little bit that I have for this setting. We are going to do the hallway lights first. Under the rendering tools, you are going to select the window light and apply it to the windows you want. I have the real-time lights turned on so that I can get an idea of what I will be working with when I go to render. And you can see in the bottom right that the preset settings are much too bright. So I had to adjust the brightness and effect range all the way down to 1. And that is what got me this nice inside glow. As a note, the arrow on the window indicates which way you want your light to go. So right now you can see that the light is pointing outwards towards the patio. And here are the neon lights I promised. This one is super fun, and I used the Light Effects rectangular area light and placed it 1/8 of an inch above a custom shape that was the same size as the light. I set the brightness range to floodlight and set the brightness to 7500. This is for a nighttime rendering, so keep in mind you may need to turn up the brightness for something done during the day. After I got my light settings dialed in, I then applied the intense green material to both sides of the custom shape. The light hits the custom shape and then reflects the color beautifully, making a neon light. Just as a quick by the way, the effects rectangular area light can only become so small, so I do actually have part of that light going through an additional special shape that is I'm considering to be the roof for this project. And now it's time to show off the actual colors. I went ahead and did a bunch just because I found it really exciting and I wanted to have some fun playing around and seeing what different lights could do to affect the space. I am super thrilled with how this turned out. I love that there is a big radiant red glow that's thrown across the furniture here, and you'll see that that stays very consistent for all of the colors that I have rendered for this. So next we have our orange. The orange actually ended up being my favorite one. I'm not normally a fan of orange. I sometimes struggle to work and design with it, but I think I like it so much because it feels really good with the fire pit that is on the other side of this area. Next we have our yellow. I'll just give you guys a couple of seconds to just kind of take it in. Um, I'm a little on the fence about whether or not I like the yellow because I feel like it turns the teal a little green, but I still think it's very cool. I think it's very vibrant. Now we have our green. And of course we have to have our blue. Next we have our cyan. I think the cyan is a very close second for me. I feel like it makes the teal color on the lounge seats just pop a little bit more, and I also think that the art on the wall in the hallway pops a little bit more with it also. And for our last color that I decided to render, we have purple. I am super happy with how these lights turned out. I think they are vibrant and colorful and really liven up the space. I know that there's a couple of ways to actually do neon lights, but this is the way that I found, and I hope that you'll give it a shot for your next project. Just a little backstory on the neon lights. This project was the inspiration behind the method. The wall behind the workstations is incredibly blue and it reflects those colors onto the workstations. It's because I knew the color would reflect that I went that route as opposed to adjusting the opacity, which may have risked the vibrancy of the colors, though next time I really might have to just play around with it and give it a try because I think if I can figure that out, then I can do a whole lot more with it for next year. Here are those workstations actually installed. I love that the color actually reflects in real life too, and that it's not just in the rendering. The image on the right, of course, is that very blue wall that I was telling you about that was reflecting that color so beautifully, and you can kind of see it over here on the left as well. I just think that's very fun that that's just kind of how it worked out. This is the last outdoor space I have to share with everyone. I spent a lot of time on it and I had a lot of fun building everything out in this concrete jungle. I enjoyed making the custom planter along the back wall with the greenery, and I also had a lot of fun with my blue and green finishes to call back to the blue spaces and green spaces that we went over today. The space that I'm showing is technically 3 floors. You can just barely catch the third one all the way over on the right. To the right of this pergola, we do have some additional seating. We have stairs leading up to an additional balcony. And then we have above that a break room overlooking everything going on below. Almost everything shown here is a SketchUp model or a custom shape. The water feature, pergola, and string lights with the lights turned on are available to you in the resources I will be sharing with you here shortly, so please feel free to go ahead and get your phones ready. Because all of these models, or almost all of them, were custom shapes or SketchUp models, it also included a lot of custom materials that I had to create. I really do mean it. I did have fun playing around with these finishes. I had fun bringing in some of the natural woods to kind of create a juxtaposition to all of the concrete that's going on here. I also really love my wave seat. I feel like it breaks up a lot of the really harsh, sharp, angular lines, so I hope you like it also. I have two quick install images to share with you after this, but this is my last rendering. I truly just wanted to provide some further inspiration for you all and provide a rendering that shows the string lights a little better, as well as a bit more detail on everything going to the right of the water feature and wave bench. We have more lounge seating all the way to the right, and even some seating on the second floor overlooking everything below. I did want to also bring attention to the fact that I do have windows in my walls, but you probably noticed that there isn't actually anything going on behind them like I've done for my other spaces. This was intentional. As I continued to build and grow upon this project, I realized that I was going to run into a similar problem as when I was working on the project for the parking lot, and that was that you wouldn't be able to see any blue sky, and I really wanted people to be able to still see that, so that was my workaround, and I think that that's something that can be utilized for future projects that you might run into going forward as well. Here's my last little bit of content for you guys. These are the install photos that I had mentioned just a moment ago. This was for a project we completed a couple of years ago. It is one of our projects that we did that had some truly beautiful planters with faux plants in it. They make such an incredible difference. I wish that I had pictures to share with you guys of what it looked like before the plants were added, because it really does make that big of a difference. So I got one more image for you. Here we go. So I feel like this project does a really good job of kind of capturing everything that we talked about. It has natural lighting, it has art, it has planters, it also has options for different types of seating. We got the high wing backs, we got benches, we got your typical lobby chairs. And it's also really nice because you can see in the side tables that they do have power on the sides, so people do have power easily accessible to them as well. Lastly, we have the promised resource page. I have included some helpful links and a QR code with a ton of extra info, including bonus presentation expanding on the WellAP building standards. It is really a copy and paste of their website of the bolded topics from earlier, but it's still helpful and it condenses a lot of information. It also has a lot of extra files, such as the CET pond file, the fire pit, and other useful SketchUp models, all artwork and outdoor rendering materials. I really do believe in utilizing free resources, so I do hope you take the time to check this out. And yeah, please, again, if you run into any questions, then feel free to reach out to me via email, and I promise I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you all so much again for joining me today. I hope you are all able to find inspiration for your wellness spaces and learn something new on how to create outdoor havens. Please feel free to contact me, and with any questions, I would be happy to help out with anything, especially with making the pond, but also please feel free to just download the file. Let me know if you need me to go back to that page, and I'm totally happy to. The QR code that is shown here on this slide is so that you can scan it to receive credit with the ID CEC. And I believe that's everything. Thank you guys again. I really do appreciate it. I'm glad that I was able to come back again this year and share everything that I have learned over these past couple of months while I worked on this presentation.